Hi, everyone. I am Madelyn Freed. I'm a software engineer at Gusto, a company in the United States, I think headquartered in San Francisco, but I'm in Brooklyn living with my wife and dog, who you will see a lot of my dog. Let me share my presentation with you. And today I'm going to be talking about why and how to introduce pairing to your team. Um, uh, Pairing has been incredibly important to me in making my work life better, and I want to share some of that with you. Co-hosted by my little dog, Nancy, who's going to be in many, many pictures. The other thing about this hosting is that I would really like, I love when it's people's names. I love the name Nancy. I would love people to contribute in chat and ask questions as you have them or comments. One of my favorite things is when somebody disagrees with me and comes up with kind of like a question or argument I haven't heard before. So I would really love to hear those things. Okay. So in this talk, Nancy and I will make the argument that pairing is good, go over some common arguments against pairing and my rebuttals to those arguments, and describe how to practically implement pairing on your team, especially if it's just you making cultural changes. So raise of hands or in the chat, who's familiar with pairing, who feels that they've done it before, is anyone feel really experienced, and does anybody hate it? And yeah, please share some of your experiences in chat, and I'll try to address those as we go along. Some thumbs up, some love pairing. Yes, yeah, tuple is great. Anyone not experienced at all in pairing? Good. Okay, because a lot of this is focused on like convincing you that pairing is good, and giving you some arguments to implement it. Okay, what is it? Very basic. Like standard definition, it's a technique where two programmers code together on a single workstation. One plays the navigator and directs the other, the driver, to write the code, and they switch jobs frequently. This technique is often associated with something called extreme programming. If people are familiar with that line of thinking, which is a philosophy is if collaboration is good, then we should collaborate all the time. Like if testing is good, we should test all the time. So this is true with pairing as well. And the pairing I'm talking about is a specific technique. I'm not really talking about one-off conversations or having a friendly team that's like always open to it. This is sort of like dedicated, extended period of times, regularly scheduled, like for a whole afternoon, for example, for the benefit of the code and each other. So what's the argument? Why is it good? Why would you do such a thing that seems on the face of it very inefficient? The code written, and there's research on this, is better designed, it's easier to read, and it has fewer bugs. If pairs rotate frequently, all team members are equally ramped up. Oops, I'm accidentally touching my next buttons. Okay. All team members are equally ramped up on all parts of the code. And I feel like this is a really important thing for making the argument for your team that pairing is good, is that silos are inefficient, and pairing makes you forced to not work alone in silos. And therefore, any person can pick up any ticket at any time. Much more efficient process for getting things done. And it's an unparalleled way to learn. You can learn everything from design patterns to keyboard shortcuts in warp speed compared with trying to learn them by yourself. So like higher quality everything, team efficiency is way up, and team overall improvement through learning and sharing. So that's good. It's good for me personally. The reason that I implement it was not even really because of the like research done on how it's better. It's that I do not like working alone. It doesn't work for my neurotype. I can't concentrate. I have trouble breaking down tasks by myself. And I was hired to Gusto as an all remote person. I was very lonely, to be honest. And it didn't feel like I was learning the code base at any reasonable rate. So after that was a complicated code base, and I was feeling real dumb after 6 months of having worked alone. So what I ended up doing, because of experiences that I've had at other companies and much more enforced, dedicated pairing environments, I decided to introduce it to my team. And I did it sort of as a very personal project. Like, I knew it was going to make my life better. And I think that it has had a good impact on the team as a whole, but it really was sort of like a selfish move that has overall benefits, but mainly for me. So I introduced pairing to my team. I have a 3-hour block with every single person on my team rotating every single day. So every single afternoon, I work for 3 hours with a different person on my team. We decide what we're going to work on depending on what's interesting to pair on, what the team's priorities are, and what context most needs sharing. Sometimes we're working to just smash through a feature. Sometimes we're working on, like, we do a lot of project planning as engineers ourselves on the team. So sometimes we're pairing on that. So, like, really what's most meaty. This has been transformative to me. It has been so positive for me. It's why I wrote the whole talk. My team is fairly small, to answer your question, Madelyn. We have, right now it's 5 people. So it actually fits perfectly in the week, and I have 1 day off. I don't know how I would do this if I had like 10 people on my team, but probably rotate with some more rest. Okay. So yeah, so that's sort of like my personal reason. It's good for my team, is why pairing is good. Pairing has been positively mentioned in every single retrospective that we've had since its introduction. Other people have started pairing with each other, separate from me, for like those long blocks, because they've enjoyed those, what you can get done in that level, that amount of time. Onboarding members is a total breeze, because they just hook right into the pairing. Most PR reviews, you don't even have to do, because everybody has already looked at the code. And that's one of the biggest, like, classic saves of pairing, is you do not really have to do code review, because everyone has already reviewed it. And designs iterate and improve as I work on with everyone on a piece of work, just as I bring my piece of code to every brain on the team, and you can feel it improve. And finally, as sort of an aside, it's good for the company too, I think. It's a good argument to make to bosses. My team works on one of the most complex and operationally critical parts of the code. The more collaborative, close, and communicative we are as a team, the better we accomplish what is asked of us. And I think good evidence of this, it's sort of anecdata, but this is is that though my company has suffered dozens of major incidents in the last couple of weeks, because we're a tax calculation company and it's the end of the year for last year's tax year, it's been really rough. Tons of incidents. Almost none were caused by us, and many were solved by us. We are just like a high performing team at this company. And I attribute that to, one, testing and our commitment to testing as a team, whole other topic for a whole other talk, but also the high quality of work we contribute because of our collaboration, because of how connected we are to each other's work, how knowledgeable we are about our section of the code. Okay, somebody did ask a question. Does someone not get involved in the peer review at the PRs? They do. I mean, we don't allow any code to get in. You have to have a peer review just structurally, or a code review just structurally, but usually it's kind of a rubber stamp at that point, because everyone has been deeply immersed in writing the code together and has already demonstrated what criticisms they have. So it kind of happens live, including design. Another good part of it is you don't have to do a code review after you're all done and make structural changes to something that you thought was almost finished. That has been happening as the process goes on. It's so much better. Okay, and it could be good for you. If you'd like to make stronger relationships at work, if you want to learn much faster, if you're interested in mentorship, both getting it and giving it, if you don't like code reviews but do want to improve and you want the process of it, if work is a little lonely, if you want to transmit your good ideas to the people on your team consistently without having to like drop criticisms at the end of their work, pairing might be for you. Okay, so that's my big pitch of why pairing is good. We're about to get into why pairing is criticized sometimes, but please, if anybody has any questions at the midpoint or has any criticisms of themselves or suspicions, if you could be brave enough to put them into the chat, I'd love to hear them. Okay, first and main business one is always why pay 2 developers for the work of 1. So this is something, when I used to work as a consultant, a software consultant, this is what people hiring us would always say, because we would pair all the time. Consultants love pairing. And the consultant rebuttal is you're paying 2 developers for the work of 3. And I do believe that, but I think a lot of the times the gains are in the preventing of procrastination and distraction. You have to stay focused. So you just gain all that time back. So you immediately kind of like double the output of every developer who's working. And then that quality build over time. You see gains of that later. But the immediate improvements are also like no churn. You don't accidentally have people doing and undoing things. You don't have a churn of communication lag at all because you are concurrently working with each other. And yeah, for me, focus on a task. I can complete so many times more things in a day if I have that person with me. You just can't kind of like distract yourself with procrastination. Another argument, I'm an introvert. Pairing doesn't work for me. And I have to say, pairing is truly not fun for everybody. You can be a kind of person who it just does not work for. So fair enough. If you've tried pairing a million times in a million different ways and still don't like it, it might just not be for you. But if you think you wouldn't like it because you're an introvert, I would challenge you to say, actually, this works for a lot of introverts. I am not an introvert, unfortunately, so I can't speak from experience, but the many, many introverts I have worked with like this manner of working with a group, or because you don't have to work with a group. People who are better one-on-one, people who need a lot of structure to the conversations that they have, who aren't good at small talk, but are good when you have a task to do with somebody else. That's actually what you're doing in pairing. But it is for everyone socially tiring. So consider giving yourself a lighter load in other regards on the days you're pairing. How about I'm a junior? I would be too nervous to type in front of somebody else. And yes, it can be intimidating. You have to reveal yourself to another person. I can't write Vim commands in front of another person. I get too spooked. So I'm always doing things inefficiently when I'm pairing, but it's okay because the other person knows what idea I'm trying to express. You will have to admit you don't know something in front of somebody else. But if you can pair with generally safe people, admitting your ignorance is a critical part of learning. And honestly, being a software developer for a long period of time, you're going to have to admit you don't know something. And I find as a practice, it gets easier immediately. I pair every single day, so I never feel the guilt of like showing that I haven't gotten enough stuff done. If there's other ADHD girlies in the chat, maybe you'll know this experience. But this is like to get myself to not procrastinate, and it really works. And if you are still really intimidated, can't figure out how you'd be brave enough to do it, here's a consultant trick. figure out what you're going to be pairing on beforehand, and do it yourself before the pairing session secretly. Then throw that code away and do it fresh. Even if you don't actually complete the task, at least like get a lay of the land and have an understanding of what functions are there, or just the basic. And that gives you a lot more confidence to not be kind of deer in headlights in the moment. Okay, another argument. I've tried pairing. It's boring to just sit and watch someone else code. If this is what you are doing, this is not the pairing I'm talking about. I have a good article that's describing the pairing I am talking about. I'll share it in the chat. That describes the highly structured pairing that you could do and that I would recommend, where who's the brain and who's the hands are split amongst two people. So if I'm the brain, I'm telling the hands what to do and vice versa. So both people are engaged. I would also suggest starting with stricter pairing rules, switching very consistently, 15 minutes each, that kind of thing. And then you can loosen the rules as you become more comfortable, but starting strictly first. How about 3 hours? Are you serious? That's a long time. My preferred length of pairing time is actually all day, every day, but I'm compromising on just the afternoon. This is how I like to work, but this is not a unbroken 3 hours that no one can ever make exceptions about. If you are tired that day, or you have an appointment or another meeting even, you can pause and go do that. And you should. Remember, you should be taking regular breaks. Be very flexible to other people's needs, physical needs, emotional, and generally forgiving, and do the kind of over communication of, I'm going to be a little late, or let's do 10 minutes and really stick to 10 minutes. The long block allows for all sorts of deeper investigation to a problem, and it gives some time to chat and be social, which helps when, sometimes those hour-long meetings are just so strict, and to cover several important topics. So those long periods of time, I'm actually a big fan of, especially if you do it in sort of a humane way. How will it work when two people are vastly different levels? So junior person gets a chance to really learn. Senior person gets a chance to reinforce their understanding and transmit the craft. Software is a craft, not an academic topic, at least in the way at my job. These pairs are sort of like apprenticeships. So if you feel yourself always being in one of those roles, remember that's what an apprenticeship is. And also double down on those pairing structures so the junior person has a lot of room to give their ideas. It's too tiring to pair. I just like to get into the zone and crank out code by myself. So this is my biggest point, and the last one, which is it's true that it's tiring to pair because you are front loading the thinking. If you're a person who just sits there and cranks it out, remember you are not doing the hardest thing, which is your APIs, interfaces, variable names, structures, designs, thinking about them from the person who's going to use them next. So yes, it is harder to talk it out with somebody, but it means you're immediately having to think about that. And so if you are a crank it out kind of person, challenge yourself to consider if other people like working with the code you wrote, and consider front loading some of that transmission. And pairing is a good way to do that. I know I'm short on time. Is that right? Do I need to finish up? I'm good. Okay. Okay. Are you interested in trying it for yourself? Pairing for me at its best is social, challenging, and productive. I'm a good programmer only as much as I've gotten to pair with excellent programmers. And here's how to implement it by yourself, even if you don't have structural support. Like, this is a thing that you can actually change the culture on your team by yourself. That's what I did. Nobody gave me permission to do that. So I would say start with 1 hour recurring weekly meetings with somebody that you know is going to be fun and chill. I asked in a way that seemed like a favor to me, and people were really happy to do it. If you're a more senior person, you probably might, like if you have more technical cachet or something, you can say, this is going to be good for our team, but I did it more like, this is something I like to do. Would you do that with me? People were happy to do it. So start with an hour, start with somebody easy. If that works out, set with everyone on your team, including the more difficult people, and see if you can make those pairings feel productive with them. Then try longer with the single trusted person. And my suggestion is 3 hours, but plenty of breaks. And also another tip, start with the experiment. Like, don't let your reoccurring meetings be indefinite. It's actually socially harder to cancel the meeting that has been going on and saying like, it's not working. So make sure you say like, we'll try it for 5 weeks, something like that. So that you have an out if it doesn't work. Invest in good pairing hygiene, like take the breaks. Come back when you say you're going to come back, over communicate, do the pair switching thing, all of that kind of good stuff. It's all really well laid out in the martinfeller.com piece. And include feedback. So at the start, I would say the last 10 minutes of every pairing session should be, how did it go? What did you like? What did you not like? It's just a good habit to get into. And it makes giving negative feedback just a little bit easier. One thing I did not touch on is how much feedback can be included in this process. Sometimes it's hard to pair with somebody else and you really have to work it out with them. So skillfulness in feedback is also really critical sometimes. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening. And time for QA if you have any.